So tonight's agenda is pretty much we're going to talk a little bit about what's new since our last meeting, some of the big things that's been talked about in the community at large, and then Jesse's going to talk about his new tool for Casper Suite users. That'll give you better check-ins and
reverse logging.
Reverse logging, yes. It just went right on my head. So. And then after that, we're just going to have an open discussion to see what issues you all are having, and maybe we can even try to help you work through them, or maybe look to make it a future topic we can have someone talk in depth about. So, so with that, I'm just going to get started with our What's New segment. First up is the 10.10.5 update for OS X Yosemite. The big thing about this particular update is it finally fixes the DYLD print to file exploit, which if you saw our last month's meeting, Jesse demonstrated how easy it was to root a machine using that exploit. I think the video of that is still it's up online on our webpage. So if you haven't seen it, you can go to the webpage and take a look. So Apple fixed that patch just in time for them to announce a new exploit, which we'll talk about in a second. The 10.10.5 exploit update is a stability patch for the most part. So as you can see, there is lots of security fixes that they patched. Also notable is that to fix a lot of security fixes in Python, they updated the version of Python to 2.7.10. So I'm not sure if the security webpage they post on Apple.com has a list of all the fixes. But if you want to get in depth to what particular CVEs were addressed and who's attributed, you can subscribe to the security announce mailing list at list.apple.com, and every time they issue an update patch, you'll get the full, like this CVE was addressed, this was brought to our attention by this researcher. Is it? Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Speaking of the new exploit, it's been nicknamed T-Pone. It affects Yosemite and Mavericks, whereas the DYD print exploited only affected Yosemite up to from 10.0 to 10.10.4. The takeaway from what it does is essentially exploits a memory corruption condition to gain root access to the machine. The guy who found it also put out a patch, but since he's not a developer, it's unsigned, and it's a use at your own risk kind of thing. So if you want to, you can go compile it in Xcode, put in your developer certificate, and then run it and see how it does. Or you can just wait till Apple gets to it, which will probably maybe a security update later. It's been mitigated in El Capitan, which probably means that it rewrote the code, so that doesn't, so it's unexploitable at that point. So, but yeah, I haven't seen, unlike the last one, I don't think there's been any proof of concepts.
Yes, there are. He posted the full source code and only gave Apple an hour heads up that he was posting it. Yeah. Everyone's pissed at him, and he's being whiny about it and being like, "Don't tell me how to do what I do." And then yeah, so it's it's on GitHub.
Well, he's also a kid too.
Yeah, it's on GitHub. It's in the wilds, and you can just download it.
So yeah, so a lot of these, I mean, like as you saw last month, really all you need to do is just physical access to the machine. If you have something like
USB rubber ducky.
USB rubber ducky, you can probably exploit the machine. So, so it's something everyone should be concerned about. But as long as you don't, as long as you have your users guard their machine, we'll try to mitigate it as much of it as we can, at least until we get an appropriate fix for it. And I guess at some point we should probably talk about maybe the future update about like the security tools that are currently being developed, like OS Query Facebook's OS query to try and detect some of these attacks vectors and help us try to manage and mitigate those. Because really the security tools available for OS X are pretty sparse, and lots of the big vendors really haven't delved that deep into it to sort of like not because obviously Windows, there's a lot more attack vectors in Windows. And it's a larger base, so it means more of their development focus is going to be on Windows than it's going to be on OS 10. But with all these exploits coming out, people are actually starting to pay attention and starting to realize that there are flaws in OS X that can be exploited for nefarious purposes. So we may have somebody come in and talk to us about that, what we can do about that. Now we'll think about it, and if everybody think that's a good idea.
Yes.
So, yep. All right. Maybe we'll have Alistair come back and talk about it, because I'm sure he'd love to talk about that tomorrow. And OS 8.4.1 came out. It's mostly a stability update, lots and lots of bug fixes in this. And it's for all the 4S and later, so that means most of the iPhones out there can use this.
I thought it was mostly like Apple Music fixes and stuff.
No, there's lots of exploits that have been fixed as well. I mean, well, officially what they say is there's a lot that they fixed a bunch of problems with iTunes, but looking at what they've actually fixed, there's lots of exploits that have been fixed.
Huh.
So
it also patches jailbreak. Just like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Well, they always try to do that.
Yeah.
They always try to do that in every update. So. So 8.4.1 for your iOS fleet. It's a good idea to patch that. So. Next up, we have Office 2016 for Mac. So, as you know, we've got Office 2016 for Mac finally after 5 years. We have a new version of Office. So the big thing about this version, as opposed to 2011, is
Their
that
security updates are all separate.
well, the
That's one good thing.
apps themselves are completely independent of each other, which means they've taken all that Office folder and the shared components and the shared libraries and lived in the Office folder. That's now included in every single app.
So does that increase space usage? I haven't.
Yes,
I haven't installed it yet.
Oh yes, it does, because every app has the frameworks, it has the
Yeah,
fonts.
everything that it needs.
You got to have a whole separate set of fonts because it would be
you just
really
need
weird
them.
to use the system.
Because they're so
Right.
beautiful, right? They're so gorgeous, those
Wingdings.
Microsoft fonts.
So there are no shared resources between any of the individual apps in 2016, and no shared resources from Office 2011. Both Office 2011 and 2016 can coexist on the same machine. Why you'd want that, I don't know. At least from a production deployment perspective. For testing, obviously, that makes sense.
Do you recommend deleting the old one and installing it?
That's up to you. I mean, typically when we went from 2008 to 2011, I got rid of 2008 when I couldn't install 2011.
Right.
But is this stable enough for production use? I mean, I know they released it, but is it still?
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing the preview. Right? If you were lucky enough to get on the preview, it's the preview was back in April or May that they released it, and they've been iterating it every month since then. So it's been pretty stable since about June.
Yeah,
So
is there any new features on it?
there are.
Like
There
new,
are.
it looks like there's OneNote.
Access?
One
Yes.
notice, yeah.
Is
So
there
OneNote-
access? Can you get access?
No. No, Access will never be ported on the Mac. It's not on the roadmap at all. I talked to the Microsoft guy. It's not on the roadmap at all. Neither is Visio, neither is Project. So don't worry about that. I talked to the Microsoft guys. They visited me last week, and what they said to me was that part of what they're doing overall in Microsoft is going for a uniformity of experience, so that when you have Word on Windows, It looks the same as Word in cloud, Office 365 cloud. Looks the same as Word on iPad or Word on the Mac, and they're working towards bringing feature parity across all the platforms. So, I mean, there's still obviously some features in the Windows version of some of these apps that.
But it's always been the case.
The Outlook on Mac loads compared to Outlook on
Doesn't
PC.
it? Oh, it always has, right? Same in 2011.
So,
I mean, there are so
I
many
mean,
features that.
there are some things coming. I know Excel finally has pivot table access.
Oh, wow.
Pivot tables. So,
But it was
They have
needed,
more
an
pivot
update, it
tables.
was needed anyway, it's been just aged long enough.
so.
Just
Um,
just a real quick note, we did decipher the installation script.
I was
That-
getting
that-
to that.
okay, sorry,
Getting to that. You can join in the second one. Do the next slide. So, but so what else was there? Oh yeah, so there's lots of new features. Some features have actually gone away between 2011 and 2016. There's I forgot to include it, but there's a page on Microsoft's website that does comparison between 2011 and 2016. You can see overall there's more features in 2016. But there's some features that are not there yet, but the plan is eventually to get everything done. And they are planning to do at least an update a month. But if you're no 365 subscriber, you'll get updates on that schedule. If you're a volume license subscriber, you may not get those. You get those updates on that path. At least that's the way they're explaining their Office 365 Pro Plus would be getting the faster development cycle, whereas everybody else would not be. So,
Do you know about, like in Pages, you could open a Word document?
right.
And then you could, export it? Is there anything like that in this? Like,
I
you can't open
don't-
Pages documents
I
in
don't
Word.
know. I mean, I use Outlook for the most part, and occasionally use Word and all that. I'm just really testing for deployment, and
I'm willing to bet the answer is no.
Yeah,
I mean,
You can
I
open
was
it,
just
but it
curious
would be
because you
Java.
could do that.
It's a good question, has the docx format changed?
I don't think it's changed.
It's been iterated slightly
Right.
between, and Microsoft uses iterations of the document formats match the versions of Office for Windows. So it's been slightly iterated from Office 2013 to 2016, but 2016 for the Mac and 2016 for the PC, as far as document compatibility goes, should be the same, at least as far as feature parity goes.
I'm going to touch briefly on this, but there's William Smith did a session at the PSU Mac in July, basically about changes coming with 2016 from that affect sysadmins, us basically. So all the PSU Mac session videos are now up online. So, and they have a channel on YouTube, Penn State Mac Admins Conference on YouTube. So go check that out. And they'll basically tell you all the specific differences that I'm going to briefly touch on in this next slide. So the big thing that we know about Office 2016 is that most of the application preferences are stored in a SQL database, SQL-like database. And instead of being something manageable like a plist or even a text file. So although some of the preferences, some of the general Office preferences, you can still address using defaults or plist buddy or a config profile. Some of the other specific application preferences, like to manage things inside the application, are a little opaque at the moment. So basically, when everybody discovered that, it was like, oh, I guess we got to figure out SQL-like commands now in order to try to see if we can change that. But but I know the community is definitely working on it. And hopefully, by the time everybody's ready to deploy, we'll at least have a game plan to sort of get a baseline, even if we can't get everything completely automated. So,
Is there different DB for each application? Because you mentioned they're all separate.
yeah, yes,
There
there
are
is.
different tables.
Different tables, yeah. So, Kurt, you want to say something about the scripting package?
Yeah, how do you write
Uh,
it?
That's my next
look,
line.
Yeah, just more like the installer, we we tore apart the installer that came from Microsoft, and he was talking about how much bigger each one is because they're individual. But you can actually see the script takes the same font source and copies it into each one. So you know they're absolutely identical because the script literally creates the apps as it's installing them. They're not pre-packaged. It actually fills them up with all those things that used to be.
Is the installer customizable at least at this stage? Can you choose what apps to install, or is it an all or nothing?
No, I mean you could still do. I think you could still do the custom choices somehow. I've never done that before, but I know it's definitely possible.
Thinking in terms of Jamf deployment with not putting Outlook on it if you're not using Outlook,
Right.
just having a minimal rather than doing snapshot.
I think it's the volume installer is a giant net package. And I think they're I haven't looked at this up, but I think there's separate packages for each of the apps, right?
I think there's separate packages for each one, but the script still, I think, assumes that they're all there. So
Right.
you might have to take that installation script and remove the Outlook portion of
If,
the code
just
coming out.
if
So that
any
it
of you,
doesn't. Well,
if any
the
of
problem
you
with snapshot is you're going to get the post copies. You're going to get your package is going to be this big instead of Microsoft's this big. They knew they didn't want to put fonts in their
what you could
websites.
do is if you're using auto package, you can actually, there are some auto package recipes for the Office 2016 apps individually, and you can run auto package to grab those specific apps and then upload them into Casper and then policy out, so you can actually get the separate apps that way.
Should you?
The problem there is that you'd also have to grab your volume license installer to make sure that they're licensed properly. And I think that's the problem.
It also isn't that coming like next month. That's not happening.
What?
The enterprise volume license is that happening?
No, it's out. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I got it. So,
Is there a license file?
Yes, I mean, it's the same location. It's the library application. It's library preferences, com.microsoft, licensing files.
Yeah,
licensing v2.pdis.
Clever.
So it's a capital V too. But yeah, so the community picked apart the volume license installer and found lots of mistakes and assumptions. If you're part of the Mac community at large, the global Mac community at large, you'll know that packaging is one of the big bugaboos in the entire community. I think Alistair has just spent like an hour today creating, a Tumblr, package Hall of Shame on Tumblr, so you could shame vendors for packaging correctly. So, but yeah, so lots of people have already gone in and looking at packaging and seeing like they'll post and pre-install scripts and make assumptions about logged in user that may not, that if you're want to deploy it at startup or log in or log out, that's not going to work because it assumes that there's a login user. So so yes, it's a lot of vocal of like grumblings and musings of the package not being great, but it's usable. People are making workarounds. There's a couple of scripts going around that in the community that will uninstall 2011 and then run the 2016 installer. And there was a issue almost immediately when Microsoft released it, that if you install from the volume package installer that they sent you for the enterprise, and then updated, the updates that came down, because like the volume package installer had 15.11 something, and the newest update that came out like just a couple of days before was like 15.12 something, and and those updates blew out the volume licensing. So after you ran the update, you were then prompted for the O365 login that you didn't want. So there's a couple other things that, the installer, I think the installer registered the Microsoft application update package, or didn't register it properly.
Look at me, we're LibreOffice offsets.
It's so cheap.
But there was also an issue where it would prompt to update and login, but the actual service wasn't registered properly. So it would always prompt to this application was downloaded from the internet. Do you want to, that kind of thing. So, so it's like little things like that that the community really didn't like very much. So yes, I'm sure Microsoft will be on the package Hall of Shame at some point. So the other thing is that aside from Outlook, there's no Apple scripting in the new versions of the Office apps. So and I think Outlook only has limited support for Apple scripting. So if any of you use like William Smith's Outlook setup script, I think he's tested this, but I don't think he ever got back to us on whether it still works.
Are those for AD or local users as well? Just for
Well,
AD
his
users, right?
script would set up, depending on how you configured the script, you could set up for Exchange or set up for POP or INAP. So.
No, I meant some of the scripts deal with automating it for AD valid machines.
Yeah.
Rather than local users.
Yes. So. But yeah, so if you have anything like that, you definitely want to get your hands on that and test. And next thing, the GSX API changes. How many people use GSX regularly?
I wish I had expired.
So basically what, because people who use GSX, I'm sure you get lots of the GSX spam these days, right? Saying your account has been locked out or disabled or deactivated because for whatever reason. Basically, there's a lot of GSX phishing emails, and in response to that, the people over at GSX, initiated two-factor authentication for you to log in now, and it's also made changes to their API, which a lot of things like Jam's Casper Suite use to check warranty info on and populate that info in the database. So they've instituted certificate-based authentication for the API. And they announced this way back in, February? March, I think?
That it was going to happen. Yeah.
That was going to happen, and 8.16, and basically what you had to do was you, as the user, would have to do a certificate request, use a CSR, send them a CSR request, and they'd send you a certificate for the production and test environments. And then you'd have to basically implement that certificate, include that certificate in the API request, which means that whatever tool you're using to talk to GSX would have to use that certificate when it talks to GSX. So, for instance, a lot of you guys are Casper. The Casper tool would have the Casper check warranty thing would basically have to use your certificate to to connect to GSX and be able to get the same information they used to be able to get before. So as of today, as far as I know, 9.7 Casper Suite 9.7.3 doesn't have that. They've said that maybe it'll be in 9.8, from what I understand. I haven't talked to them directly about it, but Amanda, she's not here, but I said she talked to the Casper guy and said probably in 9.8. So, which will probably be next month. So, for those of you who use the Jamf for inventory purposes, we're kind of in the lurch right now to find warranty information. I mean, you can do it manually, but nobody wants to do it.
I have an extension attribute posted that you can use that'll grab it. Just be super careful with it, because if you make a mistake, you will blacklist your IP address, like I did at my office. But it does grab it, creates a text file on the computer.
Yeah, but it's not using the GSX one. It's using
Using the public.
Yeah, using the public, and it grabs the data out from the, yeah.
So that's a workaround for that. If you need that, or you just wait. But that's one of the other thing changes, and that's pretty much all I had for at least for what's new. Was there something else? I think somebody you want to bring something up?
Oh, yeah, just something to put out there for people who might be interested, people who either maybe just starting out with Mac admin or really starting to get in depth with it. And if you're not very familiar with command line, Code Academy announced today that they have a new program for command line training, applicable to both OS 10 and Linux. So it's out there, it's available like most of their programs, and generally I found their stuff pretty good. So just another resource to tuck in there.
Code Academy?
Code Academy, yes.
Okay, check that.
So, so now I guess we're going to go to Jesse, and he's going to talk about his new tool for Casper Suite users called Deadpool.
Cool. So, who here uses Jamf, by the way? It's a slightly different group than last time, but still most people. Awesome. So I ran into an issue recently that really screwed up my workflow very heavily, which was I implemented a notifications tool that under certain circumstances would hang, and those circumstances were not particularly obvious. And because the notifications that I was sending out were like password expiring and things like that, there was no like consistency to machines failing. It was really difficult to tell why certain machines would stop checking in, because what would happen is it would send the command and wait for a response that doesn't exist to tell it that it had finished that script. And because it never got that response, there's no timeout on check-ins for Jamf. So if you write a bad script that has a loop that under certain circumstances loops infinitely, your check-in will just continue. And the biggest problem is that the Jamf log in /var/log/jamf.log tells you basically nothing of any value. It tells you what caused the trigger for the check-in. So if it's a network-based check-in, it says executing network-based triggers. Like that's basically all that it tells you. So I lost about like a month and a half of time to just like trying to figure out what's going. I just started regularly killing the Jamf processes and getting check-ins and things like that. So because it was a once a day check-in that ended up only happening occasionally, really hard to track down. So I started playing around with the Jamf check-in process because I found it to just really not be as robust as I would like it to be. There's some tools out there like Archroten's Casper check, which helps mitigate that sort of stuff. My only problem with it is it sets like a really low interval, and in my environment, there's a lot of times where I want to make sure that a policy is going to hit a person within the day that I send it out. And if they're having issues where they're not checking in that day, Casper check might not hit it, or you can have it run more frequently, but anything that's time-based, you run into some problems, because you don't want to tax the machine with having a query all the time. You only want to fix things when they actually need to be fixed. So that's why, let's see this right here. So I'm going to talk about, I wrote a tool called Deadpool, and it's called Deadpool because it talks a lot about what it's doing, and it kills things that it doesn't like. So it kind of works out, and it's very difficult to destroy Deadpool itself. Let's talk about the actual Casper check-in process here. So you have your computer, and you have your JSS, and there is a launch daemon inside of the launch daemons folder in the library called com.jamsoftware.task.1.plist. Okay, and if you do a launch CTL list, it'll show up as Jamf software every 15, which is the default for 15-minute check-ins. It might be called something different if you have a different check-in interval. But what happens is on your computer, I'm going to just stop using this. There you go. So you've got a timer that runs, and your timer counts down. The computer reaches out to the JSS, and the JSS starts talking back to it. But if you have a bad script that you've written or any sort of package that doesn't quite do what it's supposed to, it just stops, right? You're not progressing forward at all. You don't know which policy you're on. And one of the troubleshooting processes that you'll go through if you have Jamf help you with this is they'll just look at your policies and start guessing and be like, why don't you try leaving this one off for a couple of days and see if things start working again. So it's not particularly effective.
Shipley, the Wisconsin.
Yes, thank you. So that's why I created Deadpool. And the whole idea behind Deadpool is if 10 minutes pass by and your computer is still working on its check-in, Deadpool will come in and it'll kill the connection and make sure that you'll catch your next check-in, okay? And it'll actually iterate this 3 times. If it has to kill your connection 3 times in a row, what it'll do is run the Jamf manage command, which will recreate the Jamf binary and all of the P lists and launch daemons on your computer, and attempt to run a check-in again.
So is that like the bless, like the?
No, Jamf manage just kills all of the Jamf stuff that's on the client machine and then recreates it from scratch. And the benefit to it as well is when it does this kill, it actually kills all of the running Jamf processes, so they restart. So the Jamf daemon, the Jamf helper, it'll kill those off as well, and they'll respawn. Because if one of those is hung, you can also get delayed check-ins. So anytime it has to do a kill, it'll try killing those. If it has to do it 3 times in a row, it'll run Jamf manage and recreate all the content on it. And then it reinstalls itself, because Jamf manage actually overwrites Deadpool by destroying it. Do you have a question?
No, I'm just, yeah.
Okay, it's all good.
Nice idea.
Thank you. Made entirely in Keynote, because I'm lazy. So how does this actually work? Well, sorry, one of the other things is it also creates a new log at /var/log/jamfv.log, and it actually tells you what it's doing, because instead of just running Jamf policy, it runs Jamf policy -- verbose. And I'll explain also on my JSS, I also swap out my inventory check-in to a new one that is Jamf recon -- verbose that also points to this one. So you can see I actually get it's checking for the availability. So I had one where it killed 2 times in a row, then it started working. And it goes through exit codes. I get to see everything. If I see a kill, I can look at what was going on before it, and I can see that in the other one, it just for some reason stopped after checking into the JSS is available. Okay, so that means it wasn't a policy of mine necessarily that was causing the hang up. Something else is going on. I would know to look either towards the server or the Jamf manager will kick off, and it might fix the issue, knowing that it's a client-side issue with the binary or something like that. So the way that it does all this is using a couple of different files. So the first one is this com.jamsoftware.task.1.plist, okay? It overwrites that, and I'm going to show you what's actually in these files and how this was written, because hopefully it'll give you guys good ideas on how you can come up with your own solutions to other weird problems that I haven't thought of yet. Because I know, like, if you don't do a lot of scripting or anything like this, it can sound a bit daunting to like, oh, like I just like rewrote the way that Jamf checks in on a regular basis. It's really not that complicated. Jamf's is stupidly simple, and that's part of why I don't think that it's robust enough. So I'll show you guys the difference in a minute. But you have this tool that I rewrite. You have another plist whose only job, it's jamsoftware.fourthwall.plist, is to be aware of what's going on. And if it needs to run the manage command and things get out of hand, it puts Deadpool back where it's supposed to be and makes sure that it's still running properly. Okay, so this is triggered anytime the Jamf manage command runs. Then there are 2 scripts that are involved. One is wait.sh. And wait.sh, I'll show you guys in a minute, but that's the one that actually handles the check-in process, monitors it, and kills things if it needs to. And then the last script is fourthwall.sh, whose whole job is to rebuild the p-lists that are needed for the launch daemons. So it's a really small, lightweight package. It's only these 4 items that run on your computer. And I'll show you what it looks like here. So I'm going to drop out of my presentation, and I'm going to drop over into Atom. So, or actually, I'm going to first go to my terminal here. I've got logged in as root in the upper left, logged in as regular user in the upper right, and then that's a tail of the Jamf verbose log that I have running. I usually leave this up on my computer most of the time. So if I run less library launch daemons com.jamf software task1.plist.back. This is what actually comes on your computer. Okay, can you all read that? Okay, awesome. So it's a very, very simple launch daemon. Its only job is at start interval 900, so every 15 minutes, run user sbin jamf policy - random delay seconds 300. Okay, and that random delay is just in there that if you happen to enroll a bunch of machines simultaneously, it'll make sure that you don't have 50 machines dial in at the exact same second. Yeah, exactly. So this is the only thing that handles your check-ins on your computer. It runs that, and then Jamf policy is off to the races and does whatever it wants. And
So what happens when it gets stuck? Where does that go wrong?
That's where my script at least helps you
I
figure
know,
that
but
out.
what causes that? Because we encountered that together several times where machines
Yes.
would
So
stop reporting in.
a little bit earlier. Essentially, if you have a bad script, you have a bad policy, if the binary itself hangs, there's any number of things that can get in the way. The big problem is that the Jamf log that it provides you with gives you no information for diagnosis. So what my trade out does is we quit here, and I'll pull up Atom so that we can look at it. Or no, sorry. Let's do this. This is my version. Okay, so it's the same, except instead of just giving the Jamf command directly, it points to bin sh and then it runs. And I keep it in the Jamf Management Framework scripts folder just for the sake of consistency, but it points to wave.sh. Okay, so instead of running the command directly to the Jamf binary, it runs a shell script. Okay, and that shell script looks like this. Okay, now it's not very complicated. At the top, we just have a little function whose only job is to put date time information in front of the log. So they have a real log instead of just like a start time and an end time and then a bunch of crap in the middle. So anytime I call that, every line that's output gets dropped to xargs and then gets printed into the var log Jamf v log. Okay, so anything that goes output there gets its own line, gets its own time frame, and this is going to do it for the Jamf Jamf policy -- verbose. So you actually get the verbose output every time. The timeout frame is set to 600, and a start time is set so that it knows when this is actually kicked off. And it'll quickly run down. It will double check how many times it's had to kill itself previously, and then set the variable to that so that it can keep an accurate count. Otherwise, it sets it to 0. And then we have it'll echo out, starting check-in, and then it just says log output. I created a variable Jamf location because that you notice that there is a Jamf location user bin which Jamf. That's because in the future they're actually moving where the Jamf binary is located from sbin to user local bin because of the system integrity protection in El Capitan. So this should work across once that update happens. But anyway, it'll run policy -random delay seconds 300 -- verbose. It's the only thing that's been added onto the end. And it immediately gets the PID for that process and then starts a while loop that checks every time it runs through, is that process still running? And the while loop says while less than 600 seconds. So while 10 minutes have not passed, I will allow this to continue running. Okay? If the process disappears, it immediately drops out and it says successful check-in. If the process continues for longer than 10 minutes, it immediately checks how many times it's killed it. If it's killed it 3 times, it runs Jamf manage. If it hasn't, it outputs and it says, by the way, a really useful thing to use is pkill-f, and then in quotes, the explicit list to where the Jamf binary is. If you run that, it will kill every Jamf process on the machine and only those processes. So it runs that one command, kills all of those, and they'll restart, and hopefully the next time it'll check in, or it runs Jamf manage. Now the problem with Jamf manage is that it deletes everything that I had in my previous plist. So I have another plist that is equally simple to the other one, called fourth wall, that just points to a different script, but it's using a watch path instead. And essentially, if the com.jamf software Jamf daemon plist gets touched at any point, it will immediately take care of what it needs to take care of and put things back. And I'll show you how that looks in the actual script. So in fourth wall, what it does is, again, that's the logging function at the top there. If there is a process called Jamf manage, it'll actually say Jamf manage was run manually. So you know that if somebody was doing admin work on the computer, that there's a manual call to Jamf manage. It'll then wait until that process doesn't exist, and then it will log the output, as well as run a set command that just replaces the stuff in the plist and then reloads the plist for the launch name. Okay. Otherwise, if it notices the Jamf manage isn't running, it'll run it itself. It'll say run Jamf manage, and log that output to the verbose output. So what you end up getting is, and I'll show you what the actual process looks like. If I run launchctl start that process, if you watch the bottom half, it's going to delay 195 seconds, so I'm actually not going to make us sit here and watch this. But it'll log that output, and over here we can see log. This is the actual log that I get. So I can literally see everything that's going on. I can see any apps that it might be hanging on or things like that, any script outputs, and it is fully verbose. So troubleshooting becomes infinitely easier. I solved my problem that took me and Jamf a month of sleuthing around in about 5 minutes after
So
I had.
how many machines has this been beneficial?
I have it running on every machine now, and I have not seen missed check-ins of greater than 2.
And what happens when there's a dot update to the Jamf binary? Does that get broken?
Nope.
You have to recompile it or something?
No, it doesn't at all, because the P list itself, as long as, if you run an update and the Jamf binary gets pushed out, it's still going to be the same launch statements that run. Because the launch statements, as long as the commands themselves don't change, nothing.
Just what is running.
Yeah, nothing breaks. You can uninstall it very easily if you just run launchctl unload the 4th wall plist, and then Jamf manage will just pave over everything. The only additional thing that you need to do to make this function is in your JSS, you need to, I'm going to pull up github.com. If the internet wants to work. I'll go to my GitHub page. So you can find this, by the way, on my GitHub page. Deadpool. So this is what I have tossed into this line right here, Jamf Recon verbose. I replace the every 15 the recon actual policy with this new verbose policy. And this essentially just tells it to make sure that all that verbose output is put into the same log again. So it's the exact same recon policy that you have, but it just has a little bit extra tossed into it so that you get beneficial output from it. I am making a small adjustment, by the way, which is these double quotes need to be changed to single quotes because I don't know who does much bash, but single quotes make sure that anything that's typed between them gets considered literally as an actual string. Double quotes, you have to escape special stuff, and I can't escape things in the recon, and I've run across a couple of people for whom they have like apostrophes and things like that in what's output. So I just need to do that and take care of that small piece.
How many machines are you monitoring that this was beneficial?
115. So
and how many machines did you have that stopped reporting that prompted you to spend the time to do this?
I was having bad check-ins. It was so the original cause of it was a script that was giving out notifications for password expiry. So it was happening with random frequency, and that's why I couldn't figure out what's going on. So doing this, just in all honesty, makes it so that you can pretty much guarantee that people are going to get their check-ins. I may add a little extra to re-enroll the machine if it needs to be re-enrolled. I don't like the idea of having to curl from a different location to get a PKG. So I'm considering making it that it'll duplicate the Jamf binary to a neutral location and then just replace the Jamf binary with that version of the Jamf binary and then run the enrollment script that comes in the PKG. But we will see. But anyway, that's kind of the whole deal.
I'm curious, so why haven't Jamf corrected this? Since you've obviously talked with them about this, have they not considered this?
Oh, he was like, put a thing on the request page. I'll totally vote it up for you. And then, yeah. So anyway.
But, I mean, you can't be the only person.
No.
Obviously, I mean, we've encountered this for a while, even together, that you have out-of-touch machines.
Mm-hmm.
Binary, you upgrade your JSS, the binary doesn't upgrade by itself, does this get hung because of this?
That's really more of a question of Jamf's development.
That's what I mean. Do they not see that as a default within their application?
They may not. I mean,
well, here's the deal. What I'm going to do is I only just finished this like last week, and I ran it for a full week before I was plan to talk about it because I didn't want to tell you guys about something that just really blew everything apart. But I'm going to put it up as a feature request because, in all honesty, it's not heavier than what they're already doing by almost any stretch.
Well, it is a defect if their application isn't working the way that they intended to.
No,
they
absolutely.
should be made aware of it, and you can get royalties.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I ended up doing,
Move
by the
to
way,
Minneapolis.
deployment is incredibly simple. I made an install script because it's hosted on my GitHub, and I'll make sure that the best updates are always available in the GitHub page. I wrote a quick script that just erases, if you need to replace it with whatever version or anything, it'll undo everything that already exists, and then it'll curl down directly from GitHub all the pieces that it needs and run it. And the best way to do it is my deployment script literally just runs this line, curl-sl bit.ly link pipe to bash and disown. That way you can run it as a part of regular check-in, and you don't have to wait for it to complete for the check-in to continue. Because if you try to wait for it to complete, it can cause weird issues. This also, by the way, is how you work around the 10-minute kill period. Because there are certain circumstances where 10 minutes might not be enough. You know that you're pushing out a large package, you know that you're caching an OS upgrade for the future, you might want to give them an indefinite period of time. The way that you solve that, and it's listed in my overriding the time for specific policies, is essentially you create a custom trigger, and I have my own policy that is, or my own script rather, that's called 10-minute override. And for the $4 variable, I use whatever custom trigger I want. So I'll make a policy, I'll say 10-minute override, you drop that in there, and it runs jam policy trigger, -- verbose, and disown.
What does disown do?
Disown allows that shell to become a subshell that's separate from that process, and it'll run entirely outside of the jam check-in at that point. The only downside to that is I do not pipe the output of that into the verbose log, because then you would have no time sequencing, because it'd be two separate things trying to feed into the same place at once. So you could, if you wanted to, have that pipe to a different place, but usually you're only going to do it for like one policy at a time, and you'll know pretty clearly that that's what's not working. So yeah, that's kind of the whole idea. You guys can check it out. My GitHub page is Tulgeywood, TULGEYWOOD. I'm going to pull it up here. So yeah, if you go to GitHub and search for me in the upper left-hand corner there, you'll find I've got a bunch of extension attributes and things that I write, small scripts to just try and get things working a bit better. Does anybody have any questions about this? Does it seem like it might be useful to some of you?
So you only install as one server?
No, you install it and get pushed to each client machine.
Each client. Yeah.
It overwrites the default
So
check-in stuff that
you'd
Jan
set
was
up
doing.
you'd set up a policy with the install SH to run on every client at whatever interval you want or whatever.
So you're just making a policy and then do all
And then
manage.
the install script does the rest, and then you can push it to all your machines and then see. I would probably recommend doing it on a couple of test machines first. And
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
I've deployed it to 115 machines, and I've seen no negative impact from it whatsoever.
If you want to test in production, please.
I mean, that's how I roll. I pushed it out to everybody the first day. So that worked out
We
great.
discovered a year ago when we went from 8.7 to 9 something, some of the machines didn't pull down the new binary from our JSS.
I'm having one computer having this.
So we made a smart group to find out which machines were still at the old binary. And we were trying to figure out why. So we found out from Jamf that you could do the unload of the launch daemon task and then reload, and it would suddenly would check in and download the new binary. So I think this
This will solve
kind
that.
of works around
This will
that
solve that problem.
by not letting it hang.
There's other things that you can do, and I'll be adding more pieces to it. It's just I wanted to get the base project out there. But because the log exists now that's very clear as to what's going on, and it counts the number of kills, you can create an extension attribute very easily that will categorize, numbers of computers that are having an inordinate number of kills, right? Maybe there's something that's just wrong with that computer. In which case you might want to go and give them some hands-on care where you unenroll them and re-enroll them. I found in-place re-enrollment to not do very much for me. I have only ever really gained benefit beyond Jamf Manage from doing a Jamf remove framework and then reinstall. Annoyingly, in my environment, that's not possible because I deploy all of the Wi-Fi configs via profiles. So if you run Jamf from a framework, you lose internet connectivity.
Right.
I had to write a really obnoxious script migrating from one JSS into a VM JSS that had it joined a separate network temporarily so that it could then do all this crap, and it's a big pain in the butt. So you can create extension attributes that'll give you really obvious troublemakers in the group. Because the reality is, you might have a computer that you think is being a troublemaker, but it's just one policy that they're having problems with. And then you look in that verbose log, you see it's hanging on this policy every time. And then the cool thing there is you can try running the policy locally on that machine. You can run it based off of a trigger if you need to. Instead of it just being, hey, I tried to check in and I'm just still checking in for an hour and a half. But yeah, so that's Deadpool, and that's kind of the end of me talking about stuff. Download it, try it out, comment on it if you have any problems with it, because I want to make sure that it works. That's my Facebook. I want to make sure that it works correctly. But yeah, that's that. Thank you.
So yeah, okay. So at this point, I'm just going to open up to whatever you guys want to talk about. Since we have a whole bunch of us over here, we got a meeting of the mind. So if there's something you're having issue with, or something you would like to see us talk about in depth in a future meeting, now is the time to do it. So have at it.
I have one question. iMessage and your phone, I'm syncing. How do you get that? This is what happened to me. I had to nuke my phone. I had a rogue app. I had to nuke it completely. And whenever I'm on the same network, iMessage worked great on my Mac. But if I'm on different networks, forget it. I'm not syncing.
I had to do
It worked before. It worked before on different networks. But since I nuked this guy, no.
There's a preference. I'm trying to remember, because I had to do this in my office as well, because my phone's on a guest network and the computer's on a different network.
Yeah, that's exactly what I am.
But you're getting tokens from different networks on your different devices.
I think it has to do with, it'll try to prioritize Wi-Fi connectivity over Bluetooth.
What will prioritize?
The
iMessage?
The syncing
iMessage.
between, you're talking about like for text messaging.
Yes.
SMS messages, Charles, don't go through Apple.
No, understood. But if you're logged into one network here and you're logged into another network there, you got different tokens on your different devices.
Right.
You're communicating with the server from different devices.
There's no server involved. So
for iMessage.
But we're talking about SMS through messages, which
sorry.
It's a direct Bluetooth connection.
All right.
But it'll try to prioritize Wi-Fi if it can.
Oh, so that's what it is. Okay.
I think that's what it is.
You're talking about SMS messages and not iMessages.
Well, I'm talking about both. I mean, SMS was kind of
iMessages should go through regardless.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, my iMessage is not syncing at all. And I'm on different networks. I'm on the
other.
Have you tried logging out of iCloud and logging back in?
Oh, many times.
On both devices?
On both devices.
And I got nothing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a token, your device gets a token from whatever server when you're
I'm on the outside QVC guest and I'm on the internal QVC, and all I did was wipe my phone.
Jordan laughed at
here.
There's one thing you can try. I ran into it. Go into your iCloud on your phone. Change where the iMessage starts from.
Yeah.
To a different
To your
address or something.
email.
To my email, supposed to my phone.
Reboot.
Yeah.
Then go back in and change it back to your phone number. Do that on your computer too. It worked for me because I was having the same problem after I changed my phone.
I'll try that. That's like the last thing I've changed everything else in there. It's still.
That's the only thing that I got to get to work, and it worked one time when I ran the beta 8. So.
Okay. Cool. That's it for me.
I had something very similar. I had to replace my iPad due to a cracked screen, and ever since then, incoming phone calls used to be answerable on the iPad. Not anymore.
Same thing.
Same idea.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Just log out, change your preference, and then go back.
And then go back in, change them again.
And also, there is a setting on your phone for SMS. Make sure that you have it that it's sending.
Yeah, but I have the forwarding.
So make sure it's checked on there.
Yeah, but
I check that.
And as soon as I got them on the same network, the forwarding is great. I could get my code and everything and type it in. But if I were to try that with different networks, forget it. It doesn't see it at all.
But it does that over Bluetooth, so the network should be independent.
That's exactly right, because I had Bluetooth and it wasn't working.
Try to remove it.
Should be, but it'll still try to prioritize Wi-Fi.
back.
Over Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Because it's faster.
Just because it's a default, I guess.
It's a default. Yeah, I tried that same thing. And
They
as soon as
assume
I'm
that
on
you're
different
on the same
networks,
line.
no code
Yeah.
at all. No code at all. As soon as I'm on the same network,
Well, don't SMS, that's the lesson.
You know,
I
I don't care
message
about,
it.
I don't care about SMS, I'm more worried about my iMessage.
Right.
Get rid of all the friends that you have that don't have iPhone.
I did, I nuked all the preferences, all the database, everything, that's all gone, so, I mean,
Just try to keep
this
the
used to have,
preferences
this used to have 100 users, now it has 8. So, I mean, I've gone pretty much as far as I can go in terms of getting them to sync when I'm on different networks.
Yeah, I'm checking it and checking it back. Should try to resynchronize that.
If not, I
If
mean,
not, I'll have.
there's a
nothing
million
else.
people out there that have the same problem.
Oh, absolutely.
So, that, you know, I mean, look, as you can see, not deliver, not deliver, not deliver.
Yeah.
So.
That's fixed in iOS 9, so.
Oh,
A
yeah?
lot of stuff's
Are you
getting fixed in iOS.
I don't know.
Yeah, as it was with 8, as it was.
Well,
It's fixed in iOS N+1.
Now that the other guys left, we can not talk about that.
What about Yosemite server and success using that?
For what? Oh,
In terms of file sharing speeds and SMB3 and versus.
sadly, there is no such thing as good file sharing for OS X currently.
I mean, I concur, but I mean,
You know what's blazingly fast? Terminal. You can LS a direct
Yeah, I know.
no one's business, but you open it up in Finder, it's
try and get users to use terminal.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying it's still garbage. We run a TrueNAS setup and a FreeNAS setup at my office. I have FreeNAS at home. We have torn through every SMB setting that there is.
Yep.
We've gone for doing just SMB1 in the hopes that it handles things. Finder expects to pull every single additional attribute that a file has before it will display.
And it is the
file.
extended attributes that are causing grief.
Yeah,
The other
I
thing-
believe so.
Michael Lynn on Twitter figured out that it's pulling down, not only is it pulling down metadata, but it's, if the server is not an OS 10 based server, SMB server, like say it's a Windows VM or something, it downloads the file metadata like 3 times before it displays it for every single file in the folder. So we have a folder with over 1,000 tiny XML files. And every time I load it, it takes an eternity because that's the pull
But I'm
down.
having the same thing with Mac
Yeah.
to Mac, like Yosemite clients to Yosemite server, depending on obviously the number of items within the subfolder of the root that you're looking at. You know?
It's the worst. The biggest problem is the ones that cause the biggest issues are the ones that you're the most likely to have large quantities of, which are PDFs, right?
Yep.
Because PDFs, especially if it's an Adobe-based PDF, they build shadow files and like all of these crazy additional extended attributes that the Finder expects to get everything before
Before it starts
before it
displaying.
even renders the display.
So I remember when Lion first came out, Lion server, we kind of had the same issue with one of our clients where we ended up writing, Hank wrote something that disabled all the extended attributes, which was the downfall because of all the Adobe.
Well, that's the big issue.
Stop.
Is you can only do that if you can convince design teams to
Yeah.
not work.
Well, we
off
can't
of
even
the
convince
share.
ourselves to do
Yeah.
anything, so. You know what I mean? I mean, they're just trying to come up with a solution that, you know, unfortunately, you all know who I work for, so they're gonna keep selling Mac products. So we got Apple server.
Well, I mean, working off a network share has always been a problem for Microsoft and for Adobe products.
Of course, I'm supported by Adobe, but try and tell
I'm
people
supported by
that.
Microsoft as well.
We have a
Try and tell
major
people that.
problem with that. Major.
Unless it's SharePoint, and then even then, it kind of sort of works.
But try and tell clients that.
We have a major
Drag it to
problem.
your desktop.
Right.
We might
Well,
as
I
well
mean,
get unicorns.
but that's like
For that.
counterintuitive because you want stuff to be stored on the server because the server is supposed to be being backed up.
But the people don't look at it, they look at it as a repository, an active repository.
And in my case, like I have a team of 12 people that they're looking at 100 images a day. So they're constantly previewing in Bridge and everything on those files. And of course, Bridge is now crashing to the point where Adobe can't really help us.
Right.
So, yeah, and try to get them to come off onto,
So, I mean-
work off your local.
So my question
Yeah.
pertaining to that is, so with SMB3 being the de facto standard now, and implemented by Microsoft or implemented Microsoft's version of SMB3, are people having better success from a Mac client going to a Windows-based server? Our 2012 shares,
We're
Big
using
display.
DFS at Comcast.
Right.
And it's since 10.7, I've noticed it's gotten a lot faster. doing.
I thought DFS was back end anyway. You're still.
But yes, there's a big dance in the back end of how they navigate the space.
Right.
And, I don't quite get all of it, but but yeah, it seems to have gotten a bit faster. But still, if you have a large number of files, you have a delay before Finder renders everything.
And it is the Finder trying to get all the metadata stuff to present it properly. Because we did the same thing. We downloaded to SIFs, and we tried all kinds of things connecting clients to this one particular server.
I know that Dave and I spent like 3 weeks trying to get that stuff working. We dug through every single thing in existence, and it's just terrible. For just down the road, it was a huge problem as well. I'm double checking right now if I can. There was one setting that we were told recently by the people over at FreeNAS to change in the Samba shares that mitigates some of that problem. I'm going to see if I can find the setting and I'll let you know.
I mean,
I haven't had a chance to play with it too much to know what it really does.
I mean, we came up with one solution for one client, which was literally to have to reboot their server once a week. For some reason, that eliminated the issue for a couple of days. Working with Adobe files off a central server, no matter how many times you preach to them to not open files off the server, they're still going to do it. And that didn't really cause the problem. It wasn't the lock files or anything. It was more the, boy, I'm really waiting a long time to see what's in this folder.
Right.
Kind of thing. So rebooting them once a week kept it to a minimum, and then it started to build up towards the end of the week, and it's like, oh, they're going to reboot it on the weekends.
That's pretty much my solution as well.
That's a good solution.
They were bouncing every so often.
We're trying really hard to move away from AFP. We're running Extreme ZIP on our Windows server right now. We're trying not to.
But it still works faster, right?
It not only works faster, but there's a word nobody here has mentioned yet, Spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem where we can't move some of these users away from a Mac server because we've got Spotlight.
We switched from AFP to SMB, and like, what kind of searching?
Yeah, that's why I can't do this. This one client is two server based.
So we're sticking with Extreme ZIP. We didn't want to.
And it does Spotlight.
It does Spotlight.
And I mean, it's been around. The first time I used it was like 2000, 1999, 2000. I started using ZIP, and it's on like NT servers, and it still works great. Yep.
I mean, it's one of the things that's been bugging me as well. What I'd like to see done, and if it doesn't happen, I'll schedule it after the other tool that everyone's waiting for me to work on. I would like to have a file share browser that's based off of Terminal entirely, but has a front end on it.
Just so that
it is as bare bones lightweight as humanly possible, so that all it does is you tell them to launch it, it brings up a list of what's in it. Anytime you click on anything, it goes to the next. There should be a panels view, and it can legitimately just be an app that's literally.
So what is all the metadata that it's pulling down? Is it just the previews? What other metadata is it waiting to receive other than a preview?
Well,
PDF
extended
has tons.
attributes. Yeah, so it's go through all the extended attributes. It has to index every file.
Additionally, every user that connects to it is creating a DS store file on it.
Yeah,
So
we know about those.
I've run .cleanup before and seen temporary increases in speed, but that can also be damaging because it could.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm doing. I have a configuration setting to not create DS store files on network shares.
Right.
So that may help too.
And that's just window placement, right? For those that don't. The DS stores are just window placements.
Yeah, it's a huge waste. It's a huge pointless thing.
Yeah, it really is. Like the windows always open up the last place the last server user put them.
There is a command though. It's called .cleanup, and it's the word dot, not the character dot, that will destroy every dot file in a directory if you want to, which can obviously be both good and horrible. If it's just a share of a bunch of PDFs and things like that, .cleanup can really take care of it.
Don't do it in your home phone. Don't do it in your home phone.
I don't know if I want to run that.
Where did all my SSH keys go? I don't know if I want to.
All right.
I'm taking Finder out of the equation.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
I don't want direct access to the file shares anymore. Digital Asset Management Client on the machine.
Like what?
I brought Elvis Dam in as well as a Dolphin Dam. Those are two products that I was very happy with. And the customers that the users that I've given some trial access to, they love it. I mean, it's
It's
basically
a check-in, check-out kind of process.
exactly universal search, extensive metadata search, analytics, reporting.
Years and years and years ago, I worked in Chicago, and we had a digital asset management software called Media Bank, where it was the same thing. Individual pages of the document were like stored, and you would check it out. Kind of like the Adobe workflow. You like check it out, brings it locally, save it, check it back in. Nobody else can edit it. But that's an investment, as well.
Right.
Most of I don't work at a company. I support multiple companies, so
You can't always tell people, hey, spend more money. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to. But I have lots of nice cars. If they did that, I'd find a way to get them to buy me stuff too.
It works for us because we have a workflow with a lot of photography heavy access. So the kind of thing they're looking for, that and one of the products that Volfin supports metadata in even single frames of video. So I can run a search. I want to query, give me every frame of video that includes tagged crowd, and I want to make a crowd shot, that kind of stuff. So it's very useful for a lot of different constituents.
Which products are there?
The ones that I looked at were Elvis Dam, so supports a couple billion assets, and it scales pretty much using the same types of backend technology that Google uses. Volfin Dam, which is, I think, not quite as pretty looking, but it has some pretty nice video features.
That's nice.
Yeah, but Volfin is just, every time I say that, I'm like, what?
Are you saying dolphin?
Yeah, it's just, you remember the name at least. You're like, dolphin and Volfin, whatever. But yeah, those are the products that
I guess the dam is digital assets management.
Digital asset management, yeah.
It looks like our Triton solution was to switch to entirely SSDs.
There you go. Better hardware, not too to fix it.
How about everybody gets their own server?
It's too many servers.
Oh, that's too many servers.
Basically, told everyone.
Anyway, so I think the sad thing is there is no solution to that problem currently.
Even though it's been pandemic.
Forever.
Yeah, it's a very long time. Does anybody else have any stuff that they're concerned about, or things that they'd like to pose to the group? Anything they'd like to learn about at the next meetup? Maybe they'd like to talk about at the next meetup as well.
How much have you dealt with Jamf? Like process of people
This
are
is our
using?
third. This is our third meetup.
Right, I know.
So,
That was the first two
there's
that
not,
I'm
I'm just saying there's not a ton that we've gone
Okay.
through. Last time we talked about launch daemons. I did a presentation on writing your own launch daemons, when to use them, how they're useful, and Alistair did a really awesome presentation about iOS security, totally Jamf agnostic.
Right.
And then our first meetup, we legitimately just met. So
Yeah, I know.
you now
I
have
was
seen the
doing jump
entirety.
starts.
You've seen the entirety
Or I would've
of
been
our
able-
Jamf discussion.
You're upstairs.
But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk more about Jamf in the future if that's ever something that everybody wants to talk
I'd
about
like to,
specifically.
any of you guys with experience using Jamf, especially when 10.11 comes out with DP, something that I plan on only, I'm not a Jamf customer yet. I plan on becoming one in, at the same time as I start doing automated enrollments.
Yeah, DP is something I'm looking to do.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
we're currently using it for iOS devices, but because of the way DEP is set up, you can only have one default MDM server.
For
You
each
can have
device.
multiple, but you can have only one
Sure.
default.
Right.
Or you have to have different DUNS numbers and different deployment
Right,
accounts
right,
all that,
and
yeah.
again, they
But
don't
when it
like,
works,
they don't like, they don't
They
like,
do not like to do
they do
that.
not like
Schools
to do
love
that
it.
at all.
School, it has been the holy grail for schools.
Right.
It's
They
pretty easy.
totally loved it.
It would be really nice if they had it in the DEP portal. You could funnel iOS devices go to this MDM endpoint,
Yeah,
and Mac devices go to this MDM.
that's a feature request I put in.
Good.
Because over at Comcast, we have now over 60,000 iOS devices. And we use AirWatch to manage them, as well as some Android and some other devices as well. So the AirWatch MDM is our default at the moment. And I only have like 3,000 Macs. And so what ended up happening is we currently use DEP as it stands without different defaults for different OSs. I have to go in and manually switch them all to the Casper server. And that's not something I really want to do.
Well, most people are not using multiple MDM solutions that I've encountered.
I mean, that's weird for me because when I was talking to the enterprise support people, they said that we have a lot of customers that
Do
do
the same way.
that do AirWatch
AirWatch.
for that, and then have Casper for Macs. Like AirWatch for iOS, Casper.
It's really funny, I guess I've done more education in the
I
past.
think it's probably
past
It's
year.
expensive to have too, that's why education probably is.
Yeah, so it's either Meraki or Jamf,
Right.
because Meraki's free, but then they find limitations within Meraki, and then they go to Jamf.
Right.
But the DEP VPP combination for iOS really works well in a
it's been
single
working
MDM
great for
solution.
us on the enterprise system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
Really, really.
No,
schools
IT
loved
doesn't
it.
have to touch the device now to set it up for somebody. They just hand it off, and then they go
Way
through
to
the
go.
setup
They-
process.
They just rolled out one for the house called Bushel.
Bushel, yes.
That's pretty cool. They can make sure your kids don't.
Right. Well,
Get
it's like small business consumer.
Yeah, you get 3 devices for free.
Yep.
And then you pay for the other ones. But it works the same way.
Anybody using Mass 360?
No.
I was a client of Master 60 and then I left that job. And so I used that and
Everyone
AirWatch.
owns them now, right? So-
I haven't used AirWatch.
Yeah, Master 60 was a good platform. It had more of that sort of, and even though it was before IBM owned it, it had more of that IBM type feel to it, but I would definitely recommend it.
Were you managing like just iOS devices?
Just iOS devices,
Okay.
yeah.
Because it seems like, according to their website, it pretty much does it.
IBM.
Well,
Which is like
IBM
a
owns it
warning
now.
sign.
But ironically,
Yeah,
IBM
a lot of solutions.
IBM not
a lot
only
of solutions
owns them, they own Big Fix, which is
Yeah.
their IBM endpoint manager, and they're using Jamf for their Mac
Or
deployments.
their
Both
They
Big
do
Fix
one
and
thing
Mac
really
60
well and
work
like
support
basically
Macs and
touch.
iOS, yet they're not
Okay,
using their own
this
in-house
service
solution. That's how much
Right.
they have in the Jamf.
It seems like
Or just
like
model
everything.
But that would be a good example of why,
AirWatch says
if you were using both Mass
Macs,
360
but I don't know anybody who's
you
managing
would
Macs
want
there.
two
Right.
different
They
ways
keep
to-
asking us to test that.
Multiple lines.
Yeah, AirWatch for Macs.
Well, right
I
now,
keep
only have
pushing
one.
back.
Well, AirWatch, as far as I know, only pushes profiles, right?
Yeah, portal, you
So-
can select.
Okay,
multiple
consider
lines.
that-
Can't do anything.
Considering that we might have to start encrypting these.
You can also say automatically assign new
Yeah.
devices.
So-
It'd be nice if you could say by
That
platform.
would be
Mac, so
something I would
here,
love,
Or even by
like
device.
encryption.
You can
I
just-
mean, I know,
password
I saw the,
Right, but I get Apple
first
TVs.
meeting there, you had that guy that like
You can enroll
encrypted
the
Rod,
configurator.
you were talking
I-
about.
I
that
did.
guy's name.
No,
But
no,
it is easier to do.
Yes, yes,
I used
yes.
to
I
do
want to
that
watch some of his
with
stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do that eventually, so.
Yep.
anything on
there's-
that?
I've always done it.
There's some other things, Elliot Jordan.
But it works well when you
No, it works
Reissuing,
Yeah.
file vault keys too,
Okay.
so.
Doesn't Elliot Jordan have a workflow for everything?
Elliot Jordan has a workflow for just about everything.
How many just did we say that he had the other day? And there was a discussion about it. It's like 700 or something.
Something like
Just
that, yes.
that you had posted.
Yes, so, he's very thorough, so that's good.
He's also the only person to fork one of my things, and it's very like esoterically specific changes that he wanted. So fine.
So, yeah,
Question
so,
around just managing Macs in a corporate environment.
okay.
We have 75 right now, looking to go to over 1,000. 75.
Small jump.
Yeah.
GDP.
75 on
No.
2003.
I know, not that.
And then going to 2012 domain.
Okay.
So we're looking at migrating existing users, doing name changes, doing the whole kind of kit and caboodle.
Okay.
So we have issues right now. Some of our technicians, like different errors, they can join a machine, but they can't rejoin it. They can't join a machine at all, just throws up a payment error. So applicator select or enterprise agreements there, they're just like run ODUtil and send us the log, but then never get back to us. So we're kind of wondering we just have Windows sysadmins that are just like, well, we're Macs, we don't want to support it. Like,
So
come here and
You can intermittently not bind is what essentially the issue is.
Yeah, that's basically what he said.
In different network space
That's
or the
after
same network
deleting
space?
them, like you delete them before
Do-
you
do-
rebind them?
Yeah, do you delete them?
one domain, yes.
And where are they, where are you joining them to? Are you joining to a specific OU, or is it just the default
Specific video.
And the time is not off by more than 5 minutes.
Correct, yeah, they're all to the central time.
It's actually, I think they tightened it up. I think you can't be off more than like a minute.
How are you buying it?
2003 domain.
That's not local.
Well, you-
So, okay.
Don't do dot
You go to
local.
2012.
Is there
That's
a-
what fixed with 10,
Do you have a time server
1095.
where you could set
No,
machines to a time server
It
so
was
you know you're not
supposed to.
off time?
We do, so we're kind of like, starting back from scratch, like, none of these machines were typically managed. So now I've got 25 guys who all of a sudden need to manage Macs. How do we kind of pose it? you know, looking for different tools. I've looked at Casper and some different things, but of course, you know, we like to just do it the built-in free tools, but you know,
Don't
the only
use
thing we're
Profile
looking to really
Manager.
enforce is policy.
Don't use
Yeah.
Profile Manager. Don't use Profile Manager.
Password enforcement, that's the only thing we're really looking to do. You know,
Pardon me?
really, it's just have password
I have
reset.
not had a good experience with it ever.
If you don't want someone to be on Casper.
No, it works for like a week and then nobody knows how to fix it.
Breaks after
Some
days.
people will be able to apply.
I've just never had any
profiles.
success with it.
I
don't know why.
You'll also be able to manage preferences.
It's over. It's start over.
Scripts, package management's really good at package management. And in combination with auto package, completely automate like all your updates. So it's really good at that. You also want to look at, if you have an enterprise agreement, you can ask about Enterprise Connect. It's gonna, if you want, you can ask about it and what Enterprise Connect does. I don't know if anybody else has heard about Enterprise Connect. So it's Apple Professional Services makes it. Essentially, what it does is that it allows you to connect to AD without actually binding the machine.
Because we're only looking to do authentication for login, right?
Right. You do authentication for login. With the tool, it'll keep track of your password and
That's
give
what I was
you
going to say. Without a bind, how do you
within
keep the
15 days of
password?
when it's going to expire.
It also does Kerberos.
Yeah, how do you do that without binding? That's amazing.
Yeah, it also does
Enterprise
Kerberos.
Connect allows you to
So no
authenticate
shares, I guess.
to the
Domain.
Well,
LDAP
with Kerberos,
So,
yeah.
Well, you
so-
can, but-
without
Single
actually
sign-on.
binding your machine.
Without actually binding the machine.
So is
It essentially
it
does.
creating a local user or like a
You can,
managed
you can
mobile?
use a local user, and yeah, you can have a local user on an unbound machine. You have Enterprise Connect. You can connect to the domain. You can use SSO services, anything that uses Kerberos ticket. You can have it mount drives, and it'll sit and it'll watch network events. And once it detects it's on your network, and automatically connect, and it'll automatically mount your drives and automatically grab your SSO.
Does it catch that? Like if they went home, like a laptop?
Well, not on their home network, but if it caches the password, yes.
So you still authenticate.
Yeah, so it uses the password to authenticate, so I think it creates a keychain entry. And then, I think.
It would have. I mean,
That's
if
kinda
you
weird.
bind your Mac and
Why
then
don't we just bind it?
Well,
Well, because-
binding as the
well,
LDAP directory.
For some situations, like if you have a remote user who's almost never in the office, if you have a Mac that's bound, at some point that Mac's going to,
It's gonna break.
the binding is going to break. Because it hasn't been in the office, and either, if you have a policy running on AD that clears, idle, computer accounts that have been checked in, that haven't been active in like 30, 60 days, 90 days or more, then yeah, so next time they connect to the network, they're like, oh, I
Well, maybe
can't log, why
binding
can't I
the
log
AD
in?
is a good
do you have
discussion.
to pay for Enterprise? What is Enterprise?
Yes, yes.
How much does it cost?
So technically they say Enterprise Connect is free, but you need to buy 2 days of the professional services, which at $2,000 a pop, so.
We were quoted 5,500
Were you?
today.
And it's one-time fee though. That's
But it's
it.
a one-time fee, and you can deploy it to as many machines, as in licensing, whatever.
No, you both.
It'd be nice if that
That's
password.
the principal thing you can ask.
So I guess it costs,
If you guys
$8.
care about money, that's not
It's
a
not somehow.
thing.
But
Look
somehow
for
doesn't
AD
create the
Pass-Along.
127
Does
LDAP
something similar.
directory in the local directory.
It doesn't.
When you bind, that's what happens. When you sign in with an AD account, it stores the credentials locally.
I'm having trouble seeing how this works.
Will keep track of this.
It must be some kind of like connection.
It's alchemy, it's magic.
Enterprise Connect.
There has to have some sort of.
Kind of like cheap the golden
Dream
triangle.
Pass one does really well.
Yeah, well, the
Golden
thing
Pass
triangles
one,
is
you can
for
use
different things, but
version
yes,
2, which is different.
because you get the managed.
So, because if you have AD, you have users, and you are not on the network and they decide to change their password, either to Windows or.
It went up?
I
want to say we only paid
Windows side.
2,000 and then I have to pay 800. So you don't pay burn it.
They've really changed their pricing.
We had some kind of floating.
I don't even, I think I've only met like 2 people. Yeah, I just, they've been outsourcing us.
Yeah, I went out to dinner with them. Work, but it's one of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know how bad or good it is.
You know what we're doing? Asking questions about what?
Exactly.
Exactly.
I
That's our-
started-
That's our real thing. That's why I'm saying that's a little different.
All right, yeah. So,